If you've been trying to lose body fat, but nothing's working, stick around because I'm going to tell you a step by step guide on how to burn that stubborn body fat. First things first, we got to figure out what fat loss actually is. It's not going to be your juice cleanses, it's not going to be sweating, it's not going to be detoxes, none of that. Okay. What fat loss actually is what's going to be a caloric deficit. And I'm sure most of y'all heard of that. But essentially, what that means is you got to burn more calories than you consume. So, for example, if you're consuming about 2,000 calories, let's say, you got to burn about 2,100 calories. Therefore, you'll be in a caloric deficit because you're going to be burning 100 calories more than you consume. Second thing is nutrition is king. Now, again, I'm sure most of you guys heard of this, but you can't out train a bad diet. You can't be eating, your McDonald's, your other fast foods, your sweets constantly. Although you can eat those things in moderation. Most people don't understand that. You could still eat the foods you love. You can still go out to McDonald's. You can still have your sweets, but you got to do it in portion control and moderation. Most of my clients that I personally have, I allow them to eat the foods they love and about 1 to 2 cheat meals per week. So for that one meal, I allow them to eat whatever they want and however much they want. And I could go more in depth of that in another video. But what you do want to focus on is your protein intake. Protein intake is what really helps accelerate that fat loss because it does raise your metabolism. More protein, more lean muscle mass does transition into a higher metabolism rate. Okay. You also want to focus on whole foods. So, like fruits, veggies, again, lean meats, healthy carbs and fats. So, your avocados, your almonds, things of that nature. Another thing that really helps is tracking what you're intaking. So, a app that most people use is an app called MyFitnessPal. It's very global. A lot of people know what that is. But for those of you who don't know, it's going to be a very useful tool, especially to new people that have never done it before. It's an app you could download. You could even scan the barcode on whatever food product you're going to consume, and it'll automatically detect all the nutrition value. So your calories, your carbs, your fats, your protein, all that. So track what you're eating. That way you can see if you're in a caloric deficit or not. The third thing I want to go over is doing strength training over cardio, or another way to put it is prioritizing strength training over cardio. Do not get me wrong. I do love my cardio. I do cardio about 5 to 6 days a week. But if you were to do one or the other, or pick one over the other, I do recommend doing a strength training over cardio. Most people hear fat loss and they're like, okay, so I need to do more cardio. That's great. That's fine. It does help burn more calories, although weightlifting does burn more calories than cardio does. Not only that, but when you do your weightlifting, you're going to build more muscle mass. And again, like my previous point, when you have that more lean muscle mass, it raises your metabolic rate. It builds and preserves muscle, again, which boosts metabolism. And it actually gives you shape. It makes you more toned. So that way you're not looking skinny. So when you weight lift, you're giving a more shaped look rather than a skinny look. So most people want those lean abs. They want a small waist. Strength training does help with that. Okay. Cardio can burn off that stubborn body fat, but strength training does do a better job at it, in my opinion. Now, especially for the new people trying to get into the gym and get their fat loss journey going, you could do weightlifting 3 times a week, which is perfectly fine. Full body workouts 3 times a week is perfectly great. So, Monday, Wednesday, Friday sort of thing. That way you have some rest in between is perfectly okay. And you don't have to do 1 hour, 2 hour sessions. You could literally do 30 to 45-minute sessions as a beginner, especially. So if you're a little bit more advanced, obviously you could transition into your bro split where you're doing 2 muscle groups at a time, or almost a group at a time on a day-to-day basis. Just figure out what works for you and at your level. However, if you do want to do cardio in your weightlifting, I recommend for your cardio either doing your cardio in the morning fasted. That way you're already burning calories that you haven't even consumed. So you're automatically in that caloric deficit. Or what I personally do is I like to do my cardio after my workouts. That way I'm still in a semi fasted state and you're burning even more calories than you've consumed. So you did your weightlifting followed by your cardio, you're going to burn a tremendous amount of calories. So on the fourth thing, cardio is a tool. And what I mean by that is some people, when they do cardio or they burn all these calories, sometimes they'll get into the mindset of, okay, I burn these calories or I burn more calories. Now I could eat more food. You can do that, but it can, I don't want to say halt, but it can stall your progress or slow it down. So if you want to stay focused and on that path of consistency, don't cave into eating more just because you burn more. Just stick to your regimen and stay consistent. With your cardio, start small. You could do 15 minutes all the way up to 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's going to be great. As long as you're in a caloric deficit, that's what ultimately matters. Okay. And you could always adjust it based on your progress. Some people have different opinions on what the best type of cardio. I personally like the Stairmaster, but I think, in my opinion, the best type of cardio is going to be what you can do consistently. Because if you could do something consistent and something you can ultimately enjoy, that's what's going to continue your progress because you don't want to get burnt out. You want to actually enjoy the progress, right? Fat loss does take time though. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to go too hard in your dieting, your workouts. Again, you want to enjoy the progress and make sure you're ultimately consistent. 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss a week is a perfect target and a healthy target to do. Anything outside of that can be exhausting. It can be tiring. Again, it can burn you out. So I think you need to still, again, enjoy your workouts and enjoy your dieting. That way you can be more consistent and you can still progress while feeling lively. Because if you diet too hard, you'll be tired, burnt out, irritable, things of that nature. And then the sixth thing I want to go over is sleep, stress, and recovery. These things matter dramatically. The higher stress you have or cortisol levels you have, the more you'll feel depleted, the more you actually won't progress because you're in such a stress environment or stress state, I guess you could say, which can also lead to more hunger and it could lead to worse recovery, as well as worse cravings and worse adherence. As far as sleep, you do want to aim for about 7 to 9 hours of sleep on average. And that's going to help with your recovery. That's going to help with managing your stress. And to do so, you could, take your walks, do hobbies that you enjoy, breathing techniques, etc. Okay. And the seventh thing is, if you haven't noticed, is consistency is greater than perfection. Okay. So I've had clients where they'll be so on point with their dieting, so on point with their workouts, and then the moment they miss a workout, the moment they cave in and eat something that's not on their plan, they'll feel guilty and then they kind of fall off. And sometimes I'll be vocal about it or I'll notice it myself. And I kind of reassure them, just because they missed that workout or they messed up that diet, that doesn't mean all your results have gone down the drain. Okay. So as long as you're consistent, even after miss that workout or you kind of cave in with that diet, stay on track with everything else going forward. Now, the final thing is you want to track your progress beyond the scale. So you don't want to constantly look at what your weight is at. Weight fluctuates all the time. I do have a specific client, one of my favorite clients, but this person has kind of been volatile with their weight, kind of going up and down. But their progress picture from the starting point to where they are now, again around the same weight, has a completely different look. That muscle to fat loss ratio has done a complete 180. Okay, so around the same weight, they look leaner, they're stronger, but they're still close to that same weight. And most people think just because they're the same weight they're not making progress, when in reality they are making progress, but they're just looking at the wrong things. So things you want to do to kind of track your progress outside of the weight scale is progress pictures, make sure you're doing that. You could do, I recommend doing once a month. You don't want to do a day to day. You don't want to do weekly for the most part because you do want to see that change. And it, 4 weeks, you can see a visual difference, right? So, and then also pay attention to how your clothes fit. Are they looser? Are they tighter? Does it hold on you differently? Also, pay attention to your strength in the gym. Is it going up? Is it going down? As well as measurements. So, like your waist, your hips, arms, legs, etc. Losing fat does not have to be complicated. It's actually much more simple than people make it out to be. You just got to be patient and, more than anything, consistent. As long as you're doing those two things, you should have no problem with your fat loss journey. If this helped, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment any of the questions you may have below. I got you. And if you do want to sit down on a call with me personally, you go to my website at renzifitness.com/consultation or hit the link in my bio. And we could do exactly that, figure out what your fat loss journey can look like and how we can get you there.